It is 3:03. Let's go ahead and call the roll, man, please.
I think Bert has a question.
Pardon?
Bert.
Bert, did you have a question?
Yeah, just real quick. I know you didn't really just start listening to my great briefing. Hey, Matt, have you changed your email address? 'Cause
Have I changed my email address? No.
Okay, because I've been sending an email to you, it's coming back undeliverable. Maybe,
Really?
yeah.
Yeah,
So I'm getting them from Javier, everybody else, but you, I don't know.
yeah, Bert, go ahead and send me an email after this meeting, or I'll send you one. And then we can get that sorted out right after this.
Oh, well,
Okay,
okay.
thanks for letting me know though.
Thank you.
Let's do roll call. Veronica Escalera Ibarra.
She's not here, but I am Jessica Cifuentes as our
Got
alternate.
it. Lyle Huffstetler.
I'm here.
Got it. Christina Solorzano. Jeff Jordan. Victor Sainz.
Here.
Elizabeth DuPont.
Victor here.
Got Victor. Brandon Ross. Joshua Jeschke. Joshke. Jasky. Got it. Is Jacob Howard here for Joshua? All right. Isaac Levy. Erica Taft.
Here.
Bill Hill. I got Jacob, thank you. Scott Lehman.
Yes, sir.
Ryan Flipson.
Present.
Bert Pakel.
I'm here.
Joey Pollock. Or Kenny.
That's right, you should start slower like that.
It seems like.
Jacob, if we could have you mute your mic. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Matt,
Yes.
did Kenny say that he was here?
I did not see a,
Okay, all right, keep going.
Kenny, if you are here, let us know. Robert Hanley.
Here.
Jordan Merson. Yvonne De La Rosa.
Here.
Maricela Diaz-Wells. Chair, we have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Looking at the agenda, do we have any citizens to be heard now? You?
We do not.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is approval of the June 12th, 2024 ATAC meeting minutes. And as we've been doing in the past, if there's any modifications or corrections from people here in the room or online, please let us know. If not, I'll entertain a motion in a second.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Scott.
Scott,
Wayman.
Scott.
okay. Do I have a second? All right, I have a motion and a second. Unless somebody opposes it by acclamation, I'm going to approve the meeting minutes. Is there any opposition? Okay, then we're going to move on to agenda item number 4, presentation of the Texas Department of Transportation's District Bicycle Plan.
Yvonne, I am actually gonna cut in here real quick to make a quick introduction before we get into things, just so we can do it while she's here. For anyone who doesn't know, we hired a new communications manager here at the Alamo Area MPO. Her name is Mia. If you want to introduce yourself.
Yes, hi. I'm Mia Garza White. I'm the new Communications and Engagement Manager at the Alamo Area MPO. And I'm excited to work with you all. I will cover anything public involvement, so feel free to reach out to me for anything related to that. Thank you.
We have just a quick, where were you before what you did?
I was at KGB Texas Communications before this, so I have a background in communications mostly. I've always had an interest in transportation, and now I'm getting to work in transportation, so I'm really excited about that.
Thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
on top of that, we've had some kind of staff changes going on, especially in the planning department here. For those who aren't up to date on that, Clifton's last day at the MPO will be this Friday. So he unfortunately will be leaving us, which means we have a transportation planning program manager position that just opened up today. It is on the front page of the Alamo Area MPO website. If you know anyone at all who's interested in leading the planning team here at the MPO, feel free to send that job description and application out. As well, in the future, Isaac Gonzalez and Zach Magallanes also recently departed the MPO, so we have 2 vacant positions that will be opening up in the near future. So just want to keep everyone in the loop, and if you know anyone who's interested in working with the MPO, let us know.
So you chase those people right
So with that, Yvonne, we will go ahead and move on to your presentation.
Okay, my name's Yvonne de la Rosa. I'm a planner for TxDOT San Antonio District. And it's been a while since we've given out an update on the district bike plan. So I'll be providing an update and an overview of where we're at.
I don't know if that thing makes a difference.
Yeah, it does.
Is it the down? Okay.
And then the right arrow now.
There we go. Okay, but before I give an update, I wanted to raise awareness on traffic deaths. November 7, 2000 was the last deathless day on TxDOT roadways. And there's 3 main factors that are contributing to fatalities. One of them being going over the speed limit, and second, impaired driving, and third, distracted driving. So a common theme between all these factors is that they're all preventable habits. You know, we can change our habits, such as wearing your seatbelt while you drive, and not texting and driving, and not driving while under the influence or intoxicated. So by putting some of these habits, we can decrease the amount of fatalities and potentially get to 0.
Go.
Okay, so a little bit of background on the district bike plan. San Antonio District was one of the 4 pilots to do a bike plan for our region, and TxDOT intends to do a regional bike plan for the whole state. And the intent with this district bike plan is for us to help us provide safe, thoughtfully designed, and well-maintained facilities between an existing, between the districts. And so what is a bike plan, right? So we analyze existing conditions on our roadway system related to bicycles, such as speed, where do we have bicycle accommodations on our roadway. And we then identified bicycling needs. After identifying those bicycling needs, then we looked at prioritizing those bicycling needs. And we also thought it was a good opportunity, since we were looking already at different data for bike, to reevaluate and redefine the bicycle trails tourism example. Back in 2018, we had a study that identified long distance bike routes. And so we are redefining some of those bike routes, potentially adding new routes or realigning them. And I do want to emphasize that with the district bike plan, we are not coming up with a list of projects, but it's more of a guidance documents to make us make better selection of bikeway accommodations on our roadway system. So we kicked off the bike plan back in fall of 2022. We've done the existing condition analysis. We've completed the assessment of the needs. And we've also come up with some draft prioritizations in the bicycle trails tourism, as well as the bikeway functions. And right now we have the district bike plan PDF available for public comment review, along with an online story map, which gives a very quick overview of what the bike plan is, and it has some interactive maps. And once we are done with that public comment review, we'll make some changes and we'll have a complete bike plan by late summer, early fall. With the district bike plan, we tried to answer 4 main questions. The first one was kind of getting an understanding of what are the bicycle needs within our region, right? Where do we have bike accommodations? Where do we not have bike accommodations? If we do have those bike accommodations, where do we have gaps? And so identifying those biking needs, we realized that we have so many biking needs within our region. And so the next question was, how are we going to address those bicycling needs? So we prioritize those bicycling needs. And then we also wanted to get an understanding of who the users are going to be on the roadway, and what kind of trips are they going to be doing. And like I said, we also looked at long distance bike routes, which are the bicycle trails tourism example. Some of the data that we looked at was the bike infrastructure within our state highway system. And 9% miles of the state highway system prohibit bicycling. And these are mainly on main lanes of the freeway. So this is really where you won't see any bicycle activity going on. But 91% of our miles, there is bicycle travel allowed. From that 91%, only 32% of our roadways have some accessible shoulder as a bike accommodation. We have very limited bike lanes within our district, and most of the bike lanes that we do have, they are going to be in Bear County. Another data that we looked at was bike crashes. Historically, within the I-410 area, we see a lot of crashes. Outside of I-410, we see crashes in our state system and US highways. And these are usually roadways where there is very limited right of way. They're usually at very limited shoulders. It's very limited. And then we also noticed crash clusters in New Braunfels, Seguin, and Kerrville, which are cities that have a lot of bike infrastructure. And we also noticed that there's a concentration of crashes within the existing and the proposed bicycle trails tourism routes. So this just kind of emphasizes better and safer bicycle accommodations. We also looked at some demographics for our region, and most of these demographics, we kind of compare them to the statewide averages. Most of them, we kind of were aligned with the statewide average, but there were 2 statistics where we were a little bit up, and that one was being households with a disability. A lot of our community has 30%, 28% has within our community have households with a disability, and 6.3%, which is above the statewide average of 5%, of our community is a 0-car household. So providing that multimodal transportation, such as bicycle accommodations, would benefit for the region.
Sorry.
Okay, so how do we identify bicycling needs? Well, we looked at our roadway, and we looked at where we don't have a bicycle accommodation, and that even includes not having appropriate accessible shoulders. Where we do have those bicycle accommodations, where on our roadways do we have gaps that we need to fill out? That was identified as a biking need, as well as crossing areas. Sometimes on our roadways, we'll have very wide crossing to cross, and if there's no medians, that could be identified as a bicycling need. Also, we looked at within our roadways, areas that went over water features, such as like creekways, And if there was no, routes that we could reroute for bike accommodation, then that was identified as a biking need, as well as roadways near, schools where there was no bicycle accommodation, that was identified as a bicycling need. So this is a map, showing the bicycle needs within our district. And the majority of our roadways, which is 87% of our roadways, exhibited at least one bicycling need. So we have a lot of bicycling needs, right? And the second component of the district bike plan was to answer the question, how are we going to address those bicycling needs? To help with that, we categorized them, all the bicycling needs, into 3 categories. One being high priority, which are bicycling needs that are of high intensity and we can see having a lot of benefits. Those were identified as high priority. Bicycling needs that can merit a standalone project and we can think of potential funding attributed with them were designated as proactive. And those bicycling needs that we know we can later on address as we develop projects were identified as opportunistic. And I know this map is a little too zoomed out to go in depth into details. Where are the high priority and proactive and opportunistic prioritizations, but I'll talk about a couple of counties just sake of time. So within Bear County, we identified 2 high priority segments, one of them being an Austin Highway from Rittiman Road to 410 I-35. And we also identified FM 78 from Foster to Rittiman to Crestway as a high priority. And these 2 roadways provide access to a lot of local destinations. And then some other roads that were identified as proactive was SH 16 and State Loop 13. And then as you go more towards the outside of the city and town boundaries, we see more of that opportunistic. In Kirk County, a segment of SH 27 was identified as high priority. And this road also provides a lot of access to local destinations such as grocery stores. SH 27, we know this is a popular bicycle route. And so the other segments of SH 27 were identified as proactive. In Medina County, which will eventually be part of the MPO, FM 462, which is Avenue E, was identified as a high priority. In this segment, we've seen a lot of bike and ped crashes, as long as it's adjacent to a high school and near a hospital or an emergency center. I can't remember which one it was. And then on SH 173 was identified as proactive, and this is kind of like going more towards Gardner State Park. So throughout the district bike plan, we have 2 opportunities for public engagement. And the first round, we kind of have a survey asking the public to let us know what type of bike accommodations they feel most comfortable riding, whether that be in a separated facility on street. And then we also asked for the public to let us know which areas or routes they would like to go to. And then the second public engagement opportunity, we had a draft of priorities in the bicycle trail tourism and the bikeway functions. And so we allowed feedback from the public to let us know what they agree with those priorities, disagree. And this was part of our virtual public meeting that we held back in fall 2023. So some of the key findings and that we heard from the public from that first public outreach was a lot of the mode of transportation within the region is vehicle. 80% is for bicycle as a primary mode of transportation. And then when there is some sort of bike travel, it is mainly recreational. A large majority of our respondents said that they feel more comfortable riding on bikeways or trails, so that separation from vehicles. The second time that we reached out for public feedback, we heard that more than 60% of the comments that we received agree with the bikeway functions and the bicycle trail tourism designation. However, only 12% at that time agreed with the prioritization. So we went back and we recalculated that prioritization to include data on future planned bikeways as well as transit. And so now in the district bike plan that's available for public review should reflect those changes. We also heard the importance of connecting bicycle facility to transit centers. And we also heard certain roads that were of concern and needing that separation from vehicles. So the third component of the district bike plan was to get an understanding of where users are gonna go to and what type of trips they'll be doing. And so we categorized it into four bikeway functions. The first one being all ages bikeways. So these are gonna be roads near schools, near public facilities. This is where you're likely going to see children, old population riding. And then daily travel bikeways are those roads outside of that all ages group. And this is where they're gonna travel to like more of your commercial shopping, grocery stores. And then the long distance bikeways are those roads within our bicycle trail tourism. And then basic bikeway is where you'll see occasionally bike rides, and this is where you'll see more of that comfortable, confident cyclist. So this is a map showing all the different bikeway functions within our district. A lot of the all ages bikeway functions are within the city town centers. There is very few of the daily travel, and that's because the majority of our roadways were identified as all ages. And then those routes in the bicycle trails tourism was identified as long distance. And those roads outside of the cities and towns were identified as the basic function, bikeway function. So the last component of the district bike plan was to refine that bicycle trails tourism example. And in blue, it's what was identified originally back in 2018. In green, we are showing new additions to the bicycle trail tourism. Some of the new additions is on SH 46, providing that connectivity between Seguin and New Braunfels. And also providing connectivity in Seguin and City of San Antonio going through FM 78 all the way to the Greenway trails. And then in the Greenway trails going along SH 16 outside like Government Canyon, all the way to
there.
yes, but there's a park, I forgot the name of the park, Gardner State Park, providing that connectivity all the way over there. We did do some realignments. SH 39 by Kerr County, we know that's a popular bicycling route. However, when we looked at data, it has very narrow shoulders. We see a lot of truck traffic. So we realigned that to go through SH 16 and FM 337 to connect to Los Naples. Another realignment that we did was in Floresville. Instead of having the bike route go on US 181, we realigned that to use Floresville's new trail system. We also added a new connection between Pleasanton and Petite. So By knowing where the bicycling needs are, prioritizing them and understanding who the users will be, as long as knowing where the bicycle trails tourism examples are at, will help our district with making better selection of bicycle accommodations to provide on our system, in addition to using our roadway design manual and the bikeway design user guide. So like I mentioned, right now we have the public comment review available. And in there you can see the PDF document of the district bike plan, which contains all the information I just presented, as well as an interactive map that shows the bicycling need analysis, the BTT, the bicycle trails tourism, the priority segments. And if you go and visit TxDOT.gov and search with the keyword district bicycle plan, you can see the San Antonio district along with the other 3 districts. So the next steps, the public comment review was open on July 9th, and it does end this Friday, August 9th. After we collect all that feedback, we'll make some revisions and the final and complete district bike plan. And then TxDOT will start with other districts to create a district bike plan for them. And blue are the upcoming bike plans for the areas. And that's it. If you have any questions or comments, I can try to answer them today, or if you feel comfortable emailing me.
Yvonne, let me ask you a question. It's always been my understanding that on limited access roads like freeways, highways, bikes are not allowed.
On the main facility, but on
The
the
access.
yes,
On the access road, they're fine.
yes.
Okay, so that hadn't changed. So on long distance routes, assuming that you have access roads, like if you want to go from San Antonio to Corpus, you go on the access road, what do you do when there's no access road?
That's a tap.
Yeah, that was the identified.
Okay.
Go off road.
Go off road.
I will say that there are some segments within the VTT that kind of follows the Great Springs trails, so we are using their segments.
Another question, this plan that you have, if there are improvements occurring, whether it's regular maintenance or it's expanded capacity, whatever, does this bicycle plan for dictate what you have to do to accommodate bicycle paths?
Yes, so it's a guidance. It will help us understand like the roadway and make a good selection of the bicycle accommodation that should go there.
So if it's on a TxDOT road, who pays for that? TxDOT or the local county or the local municipality? Or is it shared?
It's a mix depending on where that route is located. If it's on a TxDOT road, it'll be TxDOT, but for example, those segments that are within the creeks will probably be a partnership with the cities and counties.
And when does the bikeway design user guideline come out where people can reference it? Is it on the website now?
It is, yes, it's part of the district bike plan.
Okay. And the last question I had for you, how do you interface with the city of San Antonio's bicycle master plan that's currently under development?
What was the question? How do we?
How does TxDOT interface with the city of San Antonio bicycle master plan, which is in process?
We've been involved. We are part of their technical working group.
Okay,
So we've been communicating, and when we first started the bike plan, we did request some of the their bike data from the city of San Antonio to be included in the district bike plan to identify those biking gaps and connections.
How was the pilot district, how was our district chosen? What was the criteria for deciding what districts were gonna be the pilot? Do you-
It was, I think, a lot of,
It was Darcy. I mean, did they just say who wants to volunteer? So
Yes.
Darcy Schiffels in the room, and she worked with TxDOT, telling me that she volunteered with the San Antonio district to be part of the pilot. Well, thank you, Darcy. Still given, we get to, still given.
I have a question about the all ages bikeway. when y'all were going through your methodology, I noticed it said within 1 mile of schools or community centers or senior centers. Why only 1 mile? Assuming an average cyclist speed, 12 miles an hour, that's only a 5-minute bike ride. I would feel like that's a normal, say, walking distance. Biking distance, I would go up to 3 or a 15-minute bike ride. So I want to know kind of how that was chosen.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact distance, but there was a shorter distance for like, trying to think of like kids within grades 1 through 12. And then outside of that, if like, for example, if a person is in college, they're probably gonna be a little bit more comfortable riding on the street with some sort of protection. So that was kind of like designated as the daily travel within that group.
There's a lot of in the neighborhoods, because the schools usually they're riding more than a mile.
Yeah.
They're doing much more than that, but it's not right. Yvonne, one last question. One of the things in the city of San Antonio's bicycle master plan from 2011, they put in, this is bicycle master plan and development services. And they put in recommended bicycle typologies. And then the city development services said, if you are doing the development here, you have to do, even though the bicycle master plan said it's recommended, the city adopted and had to do it. The problem comes up is when you don't have the pathway. Like the Wetmore Road to Holmes Park, there's a gap, and they wanted to run it in the railroad right away. You're never gonna get approval in the railroad right away to do that. So I'm just curious, are there areas that you identify as a bicycle trail or pathway that it's not realistic?
There are some segments, this is very like high level identification.
Yeah.
So this is just kind of to give us a general idea of where that route should be. But once we have a project where we look more into the details, then we'll probably redefine that, reroute it, or maybe it stays on that route.
Or it could be tagged as an optional at the discretion of the local municipality or government jurisdiction authority. Because that's a burden to put it on someone when you can't make the connection. But because this, like the city of San Antonio says, you have to do it. But then go anywhere.
Yeah.
You know.
So this plan is kind of static to the time that it was done, but that coordination with our locals will greatly benefit, making sure that we make progress.
Jacob Howard? I don't believe we can hear you right now. It might be just us.
Unmute.
Something to do with that dialogue box that was up there that said you're gonna share your audio.
Might be,
And it was working earlier.
yeah, it was. One moment, Jacob. Can you try it one more time? We cannot hear you still, sorry.
Yeah. Chat.
I believe Jacob can hear us, we just cannot hear him.
Wait again, if you can hear us.
Yeah.
He waved.
I'm here to say.
I don't know, and he is on the split screen, I don't know if that makes a
Yeah.
difference, but he's doing something on his end that we can't see with the WebEx.
That mean,
And what do we have the volume, is our volume?
it's on. Jacob, can you try now? Okay. That is strange.
Is it on the right speaker?
It goes to the owl.
In the right mic?
Good.
Audio?
Maybe switching to the laptop and get a steer. Did you put a question in the chat?
He said it was fine, but. Any questions? I think we'll have to take them in the chat today. I apologize. It was working earlier, but.
Oh, that's right.
Lyle Hostetler,
Yeah, how are the bicycle tourism trails determined?
Oh, we're the.
Good, I feel bad.
We're so excited to hear you.
so Lyle, we were able to hear you, but we were not able to hear Jacob, so I'm not sure if that's on Jacob's end. Apologies, but, Yvonne?
Sorry, what was the
Repeat
question?
the question.
The question was what are bicycle tourism trails and how are they determined?
Okay, so bicycle trails, tourism trails, they're your long distance recreational type of route. And some of these trails kind of follow the Greenway trails or City of San Antonio's Greenway trails or the Great Springs. And then we try to connect to like parks, small towns, areas where people would enjoy riding their bike for long distances.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
That's Jacob, we can't hear. Did you want to put it in the chat?
All right.
Okay,
In the chat, I haven't believed that. We weren't on this.
He said no worries and a sad face.
No, I just didn't know if somebody else. Oh, that's what he wrote.
Yeah.
okay. There's no more questions. I guess we'll thank you very much, Yvonne, and we'll move on to agenda item 5.
All right. Agenda item number 5 today is talking about AAMPO's study area boundary expansion. It's something we've mentioned and teased at before in previous meetings, but today we're going to go into official information about what this is going to look like. We'll give you some background as well as what our urbanized area growth looked like, especially with this last 2020 census data, our boundary expansion at the MPO, what the Transportation Policy Board plans to do, other considerations, and y'all will be able to ask some questions at the end. So a little bit about our boundary determination. It's a big block of text. I'll say it for you. Urban areas are defined in our census information, and they're defined as areas with a population of 50,000 people or more. And that same population, that same area is required to create an MPO if they meet that 50,000 population mark. So the metropolitan area boundary is also known as the MPO study area boundary. And that boundary itself is approved by the governor or his designee. In Texas's case, his designee is the Texas Transportation Commission. Yes. So for federal regulations state that the MPO boundary at a minimum shall cover the urban area and the contiguous geographic area likely to become urban within the 20-year forecast period covered by the NTP, which is our long-range plan, of course. So we need to cover that current urban area and any foreseeable population changes we see in the next 20 years. That must be included within our boundary. So as of 2020, we have 4 new urban areas in our AAMPO study area. That includes New Braunfels with about 100,000 people, Seguin at about 29,000 people, Bernie at 18,000, and Canyon Lake at about 8,000 people. I do want to note that Seguin, Bernie, and Canyon Lake are former urban clusters that were designated back in 2010. So this is what our 2010 census designated urban area boundary looks like, and in purple. And in blue is our current AMPO boundary, our current study area, which includes Pomona, Guadalupe, Bear, and the southern portion of Kendall County. Adding in these red splotches, that is our 2020 census designated urban area boundary. Now, if you remember what I just said, we're required to have some of those in our NPO study area. And if you can see the small splotch leading into Medina County on the west side, as well as Bernie getting very close to that southern portion of Kendall County, our current boundary. This green is our San Antonio, New Braunfels metropolitan statistical area. So when the census says what's our metro population, this is the boundary they're looking at. This is also the absolute boundary the MPO could extend to under federal law. We are not extending that far, but this is hypothetically how far we could extend to at this time after the 2020 census. So looking a little bit more at our boundary expansion, a small number of census blocks extended to Medina County and are now included within the San Antonio urban area. So that's far west side, I think Petranco and 211. Federal regulations state that MPO boundaries must include the existing urban areas as well as the projected extent of existing urban areas in the next 20 years. In order to meet these federal rules, we must include more of Kendall County in the AAMPO study area based on our 20-year growth projections. In accordance with federal rules as well, the study area can be extended as far as the boundary of the metropolitan statistical area, which is that huge county area I just showed you. So in November of 2023, the Executive Policy Board was updated and provided the technical requirement for the AMPO boundary, as well as the financial implications of the potential expansion. So what does that boundary look like? This. Currently, as a reminder, we had Bear, Pomona, Guadalupe in the southern portion of Kendall in that blue outline. The red outline is our new proposed boundary to include the rest of Kendall County, all the way through Comfort and up towards Gillespie and halfway to Fredericksburg up there, and to include almost half of Medina County, following along 173, the entire city limits of Hondo, as well as the northern tip of Atascosa to include the entire city limits of the city of Lytle. For anyone who doesn't know, I-35 runs through Lytle, Texas, which is in Atascosa County. So that's why we chose to include that in our NPO boundaries as well. So I've highlighted a few key points on the Transportation Policy Board's current voting membership. We're just going to look at the highlighted ones for now. Bear County has 3 elected officials and 1 appointed staff member. Kendall County geographical area has 1 elected official, which is appointed by the city of Bernie. The city of San Antonio has 4 elected officials and 2 appointed staff members, and the ATD has 1 appointed board member, coming out to 21 voting members that currently sit on the TPB. So how will this AMPO boundary expansion affect the Transportation Policy Board voting membership? Well, their executive committee proposed this. So anything highlighted is what changed from that last slide. Bear County went up from 1 appointed staff member to 2 appointed staff members. We kind of scraped out the Kendall County geographical area and gave Kendall County its own elected official seat, as well as giving the city of Bernie 1 elected official seat. So we kind of split Kendall County and Bernie up in that way. We added a seat for 1 elected official for Medina County, as well as adding 1 appointed staff member for the city of San Antonio, and taking away the Advanced Transportation District. So we can think about the ATDC kind of going to the city of San Antonio in that way. That takes the total from 21 to 24 voting members on the Transportation Policy Board. This is not finalized, it's just proposed at this time. But other considerations that we're taking into account is that the Kendall County Commissioners Court currently meets on the 2nd and 4th Monday of every month. and they asked us to consider moving the policy board meetings to the third Monday of the month. Changes to the technical advisory committee and the active transportation advisory committee, that's us, will also be needed. The executive committee is recommending to leave that process up to those committees. So that means in the future, when this is approved, we will have to revisit our membership as well. The boundary extension may require a redesignation of AMPO, and staff will work with TxDOT and FHWA to make that determination. And the boundary expansion must be approved by the policy board and the governor, or is designated, which is the Texas Transportation Commission. So specifically looking at the Active Transportation Advisory Commission, TPB may recommend that ATAC redefine its own membership as a result of the boundary expansion, which means that we'll have future agenda items that include discussion and action. I do want to remind y'all that we will be adding a multimodal representative position this October. So this will bring ATAC's current voting membership as of October to that 24-person mark, which is the same as the Transportation Policy Board. So I just want to keep you all in the loop of how many people we have, how many positions we have on ATAC. Many positions on ATAC already require a competitive application process every other year. That includes all micromobility, bicycling, pedestrian, professional, organizations representing people with disabilities, and multimodal positions. All of the other ones are appointed, but these positions are the ones that have to reapply every other year. So I want to keep you all informed on that. This presentation was purely for discussion, for information. There's no action at this time, but if there are any questions, I will be happy to answer them.
Matthew, I was curious as to, on some of these current ATAC positions, we've had vacancies for extended periods of time. And i.e. the Bexar County Alamo Regional Mobility Authority. And so the question is can that be one of the slots that's being proposed to have the advanced transportation? Or is that different? Because then we're also adding a micromobility position also. So I'm just,
Multimodal.
yeah, multimodal. And so I'm going, we've had this Bexar County Alamo Regional Mobility Authority vacant for a very long time. And then the same thing goes for
Guadalupe.
the Comal County local group. And so, and the shared micro mobility provider. And so when we do this, just for full disclosure and transparency, we need to identify those that are vacant and have been vacant. The question, can I move this slot to this area?
Definitely.
Great.
That is something I definitely want to discuss. We have a lot of people in this committee as it stands, so we will definitely have to make some calls on how we change that membership, if we add on, if we kind of reconfigure that. That's definitely something I want to do with this. I do want to point out for the timeline on that, it all depends on when the Texas Transportation Commission basically approves that. It could be anywhere from a month to a year. We don't really have a telltale sign of when that will be. But whenever that does get approved, we will have to look at redefining our ATAC membership.
Matthew Darcy asked me a question about an ATD had to come off if it gets approved at the board level. And what I was just telling her is that's going to be up to this committee, if that's what the board approves. That's what the executive committee is recommending, that the committees get to figure out how they want to restructure, if they just want to add members, or if they want to do what you're saying, looking at membership, reevaluating it. Obviously, it has to be within the bylaws.
Yes.
You may have to go back and amend the bylaws again, but that's okay. But it's all going to be predicated on what the action the board actually takes on Monday, the 26th.
And so for all practical purposes, since we're an advisory, we are making a recommendation to TAC and to TPD, so they can say, we agree with you or not.
Eventually that will be, but the action they take on the 26th, if they follow what the executive committee is recommending, essentially that will just be a formality because that would be something that they want to leave within you all's purview as a committee. And I don't know if your bylaws dictate, if somebody's been absent in a certain number of times.
They do.
I mean, if, you're probably gonna have to reevaluate all of it at one time, so that you're not having, because we're going back and forth for the ATAC for different things, so if y'all can kind of.
You have it memorized.
I know. That's why I can't handle everything. But yeah,
There is a specific portion in our bylaws that say if you're absent 3 or more times, then we will reevaluate your position on ATAC, so.
and I don't know if there's.
Is that excused absences, Matthew?
It doesn't state,
Or, I meant unexcused absences, okay.
doesn't
That,
doesn't state.
that might be something that we want to bring up because sometimes people have valid reasons. Just a thought, okay.
And I believe we don't count it if your alternate is present, so as long as that nephew is here.
Yeah. No problem, right. I would venture to, put this out to your committee, and again, it's not an action necessarily, but perhaps Matthew can reach out to some of these that have longstanding vacancies and give them a last chance to put somebody there with a commitment of some sort.
Yeah.
And I think, Sonia, I think you're right, in my time here, NPO for however many years, it's been 14. It seems to me that at some point with the expansion of the boundaries, your representation will be diluted if you don't have people, stakeholders attending these discussions and dialogues. So I think that needs to be communicated to them, saying, look, you have slots vacant for a long time. We're expanding the boundaries, we're gonna have more people, and you need to step up to the plate and put somebody in there. Just thought.
Yeah.
Well, and there's a project call on the horizon, another one, so.
Scott, you had a question?
Yeah, I guess in order for us to do that with the bylaws, we'd have to convene another bylaw committee again, like we did before, and go through the process like we did before.
Yes. Unfortunately. This time should be a little easier. We kind of know what to do, and we should be able to kind of go through those committees pretty easily. So we're also kind of expecting it now, so it won't be a last minute thing like last time. So,
But we're sure you'd like to participate in that process, Scott.
if you want to nap during that agenda item, I won't blame you.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Matthew. Next item on the agenda is announcements and future agenda items. It's yours, Matthew.
1 moment. I believe we have a chat, says hi. Queen here with Healthy Neighborhoods. We just installed a bike rack and bike pump at our new resource center on the south side of the Mission. Is there a newsletter or website we can post this info? Yeah, definitely. I can take that down here at the MPO, and then if any of our partners here in this call would like to take that down or reach out to you, or you would like to reach out to them, just let us know.
Yeah, that's something we could potentially.
You can add that to your
Yeah.
website too.
Yeah, include in our newsletter.
Yeah, we'll definitely write that down. Thank you, Queen. Announcements for the MPO is that we will be, our offices will be closed on September 2nd in observance of Labor Day. Our next meeting is scheduled for September 11th at 3 p.m. at this office or online again, so. Any other announcements from other committee members?
Could I ask that, Queen, could you, put your email address or contact information in the chat? Or I can share mine, if that's helpful. I don't know how to type it in. Okay, thank you.
We got Lyle.
Yes, so while we were on this call, an ozone action day alert was issued for tomorrow. So limit your exposure outdoors, don't drive to work, telecommute if you can. Try to help us not get a high ozone day tomorrow. That's it.
Thank you, Lyle. Jeff Jordan, I got you on attendance. Thank you. Anyone
You get
else?
me too?
Yes, Maricela, I did get you.
Okay, thanks. I came in about 5 minutes late. Thanks.
Any other announcements? All right.
It is 3:58. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
y'all.
Thank you.